Chuck Hughes is the only player to die in an NFL football game. It happened October 25th, 1971, against the Chicago Bears. The story of Chuck Hughes is tragic, and it is also a story a lot of people don't know. Last year, of course, you had Damar Hamlin dropping during the Buffalo-Cincinnati game, almost passed away. We got really lucky. He got saved by great medical professionals who were there to help him. And the NFL has always been a gladiatorial sport where violence and aggression are applauded.
Nobody tunes into a football game expecting history to be written in silence. Yet, on one autumn afternoon in 1971, the NFL crossed a line it has never crossed again. Not because of a miracle play or a legendary comeback, but because one man took a few routine steps and never stood back up.
And while this was a scary sight for all of us to watch from home, for the family of a former Detroit Lion, it brought back decades of heartache. Chuck Hughes, a 28-year-old wide receiver for the Lions, suddenly collapsed and passed away at the end of the fourth quarter against the Chicago Bears back in 1971. I talked with his nephew Cody about how his family reacted to the frightening moments from Monday night.
October 24th, 1971 began like thousands of other Sundays in professional football, with cold air, packed stands, and two teams that genuinely disliked each other, lining up for another chapter in a long-running rivalry. The Detroit Lions and the Chicago Bears had spent decades colliding in the trenches, trading hits, pride, and bragging rights across the Midwest. And nobody inside Tiger Stadium believed this game would be remembered for anything other than the final score. It was just another grinded-out divisional battle, the kind fans had seen countless times before, with playoff hopes hanging in the balance and tempers ready to flare. Detroit entered the matchup already frustrated with how the season had unfolded. Wins had been hard to come by, momentum felt fragile, and every remaining game carried the weight of desperation. Chicago, meanwhile, arrived with its usual bruising confidence, built around a punishing defense and a reputation for making Sundays miserable for opposing offenses. This was the NFC Central in the early 70s, where finesse mattered less than toughness, and where survival often felt like a prerequisite for success. Hughes came into the league carrying big dreams and little fanfare, after making his mark at the University of Texas at El Paso, where he once shattered school records with his ability to stretch the field and outrun defenders. Drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles in 1967 and later traded to Detroit, Hughes spent his professional career fighting for snaps and respect. His stat line never jumped off the page, and his total of 15 career receptions hardly suggested immortality. Yet those numbers never defined how he saw himself.
Hamlin's situation is one that is on a lot of people's minds across the country, and that's no different here in El Paso. And for some UTEP fans, seeing Hamlin down the field brought back some really tough memories of the late Chuck Hughes, who is believed to be the only football player to die on the field during an NFL game. KTSM 9 Sports anchor Sam Guzman joins us with this story.
Thank you, Andy. Well, Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin collapsing mid-game was a sight that no one wanted to see. Hamlin was attended to for about 10 minutes on the field before being transported to a hospital in Cincinnati, where he remains in critical condition.
He played with urgency, knowing that every route could be his last chance. And he treated practice and game day with the same intensity, because he understood how quickly the league moved on from players who slowed down. What nobody in the stadium truly understood was that 1971 had already tested Hughes long before the Lions and Bears took the field that afternoon. Earlier that year, before the season even found its rhythm, Hughes collapsed in the locker room, gasping for breath and clutching his chest in a moment that should have changed everything. Doctors examined him, searched for obvious explanations, and ultimately sent him back with reassurance that it was nothing more than a pinched nerve or exhaustion. He was told to rest, but in professional football, rest often feels like a luxury that costs careers. So Hughes kept going, pushing through discomfort and uncertainty, telling himself what athletes have told themselves for generations, that pain is temporary and opportunity is rare. Each sprint down the field became a quiet battle between what his body was trying to say and what his dream demanded he ignore. By the time October arrived, Hughes was still standing, still suiting up, and still chasing the belief that his moment would come. As the game against Chicago moved into the final quarter, tension filled the stadium. More than 50,000 fans watched the clock tick down as Detroit trailed and searched for one last spark. Receivers were tired, defenses were stubborn, and the Lions needed someone, anyone, to make a play. That was when Chuck Hughes was sent onto the field as a substitute, stepping into the huddle with the calm focus of a man who had waited years for moments like this. Quarterback Greg Landry dropped back, scanned the field, and fired down the sideline. Hughes exploded into his route and hauled in a 32-yard catch, the longest reception of his season and one that suddenly shifted the mood inside the stadium. The crowd erupted, teammates clapped, and for a brief moment, it felt like the Lions had found life when they needed it most. Football has a way of creating belief in flashes, and that catch carried the promise of a comeback. What no one could see beneath the noise was that Hughes' heart was already losing a fight that strength and willpower could not win.
He could tell this was not your normal tackle. He was waving to the Lions trainers to please get on the field immediately. He knew there was something wrong. And everybody just had a sick feeling to their stomach. I remember my father having to pull over onto the Lodge freeway, so we let his ambulance go by. They were probably on their way to Henry Ford Hospital. And then later that night I learned that he passed, and I was thinking about that, and I'm really hoping that in Hanley's case that he's going to survive.
Just 3 plays later, Detroit lined up again, hoping to keep the drive alive. A short pass slipped through another receiver's hands, and as the play ended, Hughes turned and jogged back toward the huddle, moving at an easy pace that looked completely ordinary. Then everything changed in an instant that still feels unreal more than 50 years later. Hughes took a few steps, suddenly stopped, reached toward his chest, and collapsed face first onto the turf near the Bears' 20-yard line. There was no collision, no dramatic impact, and no obvious reason for alarm at first glance, which is why the moment initially confused everyone watching. Standing nearby was Chicago linebacker Dick Butkus, one of the most feared defenders in football, a man accustomed to violence and chaos on the field. Butkus immediately sensed that something was wrong, because this was not how players went down after routine plays. He saw Hughes' body shake and realized this was not another injury to be shaken off. So he began waving frantically to the sideline, urging trainers and doctors to hurry. When Hughes was carried off the field, many still believed he would be okay, because football players get carted off all the time, and fans are conditioned to expect recovery. The game resumed for its final seconds in an eerie atmosphere that felt detached from reality, as if everyone was going through the motions without understanding what had truly happened. Then, at 5:34 p.m. at Henry Ford Hospital, the news arrived that changed the league forever. Chuck Hughes died at 28 years old. Shock rippled through the NFL almost immediately. Players cried in locker rooms, coaches struggled to find words, and fans across Detroit tried to process the idea that they had just watched a man die while chasing the same dream they cheered for every Sunday. The autopsy revealed a devastating truth that made the loss even harder to accept. Hughes had advanced arteriosclerosis, with one coronary artery 75% blocked, and the official cause of death was coronary thrombosis, a massive heart attack.
Extra depth on a UTEP football legend. Not many make it to the NFL. Former Miner Chuck Hughes did. He played 5 seasons with the Philadelphia Eagles and Detroit Lions, and while on the surface, his death is what sticks with many fans of the game. But as ABC 7's Nate Ryan tells us, his name is what lives on at his alma mater.
Well, star UTEP wide receiver Jacob Cowing is having a remarkable season on his way to writing his name in the UTEP football record books. But you look in those books, he's often chasing one name in specific. Chuck Hughes, an all-time great in UTEP minor football, a 2006 inductee.
For Hughes' wife, Sharon, grief quickly mixed with anger. Months before his death, doctors had examined him for chest pains and cleared him to play. missing the warning signs that could have saved his life. The league mourned together because this was something football had never experienced before. For the first time in NFL history, a player had died due to a medical emergency during a game, and the sport could no longer ignore its vulnerabilities. In 1971, sideline medical support was limited, emergency protocols were basic, and tools that are now standard simply did not exist. To honor Hughes, the Detroit Lions retired his number 85, a quiet tribute to a man whose passion outlived his career. Although the number was later reused with permission, it remains forever tied to a single story: the day football stood still. Rivalries are usually remembered for legendary plays and dramatic finishes. But what happened between the Lions and Bears that afternoon became something much bigger than the sport itself. Chuck Hughes was not a superstar, and he did not leave behind a trophy case filled with accolades. His statistics were modest, his name rarely mentioned among the greats, yet his story carved out a place in NFL history that no record ever could. He was young, determined, and fighting for his place in a league that demands everything from those who chase its promise. In a sport defined by collisions and impact, Hughes' death came not from a violent hit, but from within, a cruel irony that still unsettles fans decades later. On what could have been a comeback drive, he helped move the ball forward, only to fall moments later, never to rise again.
Well, Mooney tells me every player on the 1971 Lions roster had to have a very detailed physical at Ford Hospital before the start of the season. So when that scary incident happened on the field before his very eyes, he began to wonder how something as tragic as this could happen to someone who was fully healthy a few weeks prior.
I went to Texas Tech. He was at UTEP in El Paso, so right away we had a connection.
His teammates were left shattered, fans were left stunned, and his family was left carrying a grief that stretched far beyond the field. The tragedy forced the NFL to confront its approach to player health long before modern screenings and cardiac protocols became standard. Years later, when Damar Hamlin collapsed on national television in 2023 and survived thanks to immediate medical response, many were reminded of Chuck Hughes, the only NFL player to die during a game. Two moments separated by decades, connected by the same sobering truth about how fragile life can be, even for the strongest among us. Hughes' career may have been brief, but his name became immortal, not because of records or rings, but because it reminds the world that behind every helmet is a human heart. The Lions and Bears rivalry has produced countless unforgettable moments, yet none compare to October 24th, 1971, a day that began with competition and ended with heartbreak. The final memory of that game was not a scoreboard, but a silence that followed one man's collapse. As the stadium lights faded and the crowd disappeared into the cold Detroit evening, one jersey number lingered in memory, carrying a story the NFL will never forget. Football moved forward, but it did so changed, forever aware that even on the biggest stage, the game is ultimately played by human beings. And sometimes, the most powerful moment is the one that reminds us of that truth.